Hello and welcome to Current Wave. I'm your host, Ayla Wayman, and in this podcast, we meander through our shared delusions and stumble into ethereal shit talking as we dive into the waves of the human experience. I'm so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you enjoy the ride. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Current Wave. I have a really special guest on today, Shiva Rose, who is someone who I feel so lucky to have in my sphere and have felt so inspired by over the last few years of getting to know you and your work and your vision. And for anyone who doesn't know Shiva, she is I think of you as just a creatrix, like someone who just harnesses so much creative power. And you have an incredible skincare line, Shiva Rose Beauty, and you are a writer, a sharer, a curious mind. And I'm just thinking about you as such a protectress of the earth and its children. It's flower children, it's plant children, it's human children. And so yeah, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, especially because I'm getting teary thinking about when I first met you. You came to my place, which very few people have been to. You came when I first moved to Texas and you came out to help me. And I love seeing your journey and the arc and seeing where you are now, and just makes me so happy to see this blossoming.
Thank you so much. Yes, I met Shiva when I was in like a deep heartbreak and transition of so much. And yeah, I was so grateful to just come help you in your little studio and listen to mantras and help you make some good smelling, beautiful potions. And yes, here we are a few years later and it's all different. It's all always changing and evolving.
But I think people I know your mom now, we are friends, and knowing that you were raised in the Waldorf tradition, and just knowing it's so wonderful when you feel like you meet your tribe, which is what, so like you don't even have to, you just go right into like living and being friends. You don't have to explain yourself or give your back. It's like a language that we speak. And I love that. I love that connection.
I love that too. Yes, we have a lot of that going with Kundalini and Waldorf.
Right. There
Like
were
there's
so
all
many
of
other
these
intersections.
threads.
Friends. We have mutual friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It was so kismet. Well, I'm really excited to talk to you right now because I also really I was thinking about this morning while I was walking and mentally getting into the space of us talking, and we're in Aquarius season. You are an Aquarius. I also feel like you really hold some potent like seeds of that in being who you are in the world. And I've been thinking about, and I've seen you share and had some other conversations with friends about this homogenization of everything right now, of like, people's faces are all starting to look alike. People's thoughts are all being like channeled into really distinct things. And I just so respect and admire the way you show up because it is just who you are and you're in that zone, and like sometimes it brings a little heat to your world, and yet I think that that's so important and like vital in these times. I think that the evolution of humanity needs all of these differing opinions, and we have so many people kind of like screaming diversity, and yet if you think outside of any box you get reprimanded. And I so admire the way that you just show up and are a little spicy in that sometimes. And I think we really need that. And I just respect and admire that so much. And I was thinking about that part this morning.
My gosh, you're tuning in. It's been very tumultuous, definitely. And yeah, I mean, we have this full moon that we're embarking on right now, which is Leo in Leo, but the Aquarius sun. A lot of that, the teachings from that full moon is about creating our boundaries and protecting
Mhm.
ourselves and yet being in our light, right? Like Leo is all about like not being afraid to be in our light and then
Mm.
but creating those safe boundaries. And yes, it is so crazy. I mean, it's so interesting because I have, obviously I've been posting on Iran a lot on my personal account. And then I had people like yelling at me on my other account for not posting on Iran. And then people posting for like that I wasn't posting on this issue. I was like, I was getting it from all ends. It was so wild. I was like, what? I feel like either, they say now over 60% are bots.
Right.
But I did look up these particular people and this other woman from wellness that came after me that I know these were real people. And
Yeah.
I think either it's like mind control stuff that's happening in cities with like the towers, like it's
Yeah.
creating all this like chaos and anger and like, or I don't know, but I just so I in my Substack today I talk about how I went back to the teachings of Guru Jagat, who I know
Mhm.
you knew a bit too, and about her teachings about not interlocking energy. It's so important not to, especially these times we live in, is not interlock, because then you're siphoning your energy, and how to like just stay true to your on your course.
Exactly. Yeah, I love all of that. And that's what I was thinking of like when I was tuning into your energy and like the pose that you hold. I think that it's really useful for other people to have good examples of that in these times where everyone is being kind of coerced in some way to think in this group mind and negatively. So, like, of course, we want to find the people who are aligned with us, like how, we met and the alignments there and be in a community and in a tribe, but we don't want to do that to the point where we aren't thinking.
And
And
also it dilutes it, doesn't it? Like if I went and like was like, opposing this and for this and opposing that, I mean, it'd be like, oh, it's just then it dilutes. Like I have to focus on Iran right now because I am half Iranian. Like that
yeah,
is like, I'm
right.
sorry, I can't choose to post about other issues that are happening in the world right now. This is my issue because if I do, it doesn't mean I don't believe in things that are happening or feel for people that are happening, but I feel like now it feels so diluted too. Then the message doesn't get out there.
Exactly. And I think that's so intelligent. And like we only have so much life force. And to really be in that and use that, I think it is really important to be discerning about where we put our energy and, yeah, share about the issues that are just naturally aligned with us in the moment. People really, I think, need to open their minds to be like, okay, just because you post one thing about one thing
Right.
doesn't
Doesn't
mean
mean
you don't care about all of
okay.
the things. It's just a lot of energy and also just the posturing of posting on social media anyway, right? People think that if you post one thing, that's activism, and it's so much deeper than that. Yes, if you want to, great. And if you don't, also great. It's
Yeah.
so much more about how we're really showing up in our lives, and no one has access to that on the broad scale of like how we're living, the impact we're making in our
Yeah.
communities.
And I've said this to people that come out. I'm like, do you know who I give money to, like on the side, like
Right,
charities? Like you don't. Like I don't go
right.
and tell people who I'm helping or what I'm like. I don't do that to get a acknowledgement. I do it, so you don't know. People don't know. They just, yeah, it's just, it's sad because but these phones also are, I mean, I find myself falling into the trap of this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I had this epiphany the other day, because we live in a capitalist society. I was thinking, okay, like, well, let me think about every minute of my life as a dollar, right? Just
Mhm.
because that way my brain can think of numbers. So if I think about how much time I spent on this phone, on these apps and stuff, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, how many dollars? And then it's like a wake up call because you're like that's the dollars of your life, that's your life.
Right.
So I really do, I have a few friends that are so good with their discipline. I feel like you're very disciplined
Oh,
too.
these days I'm on the phone too. Like there's a lot to look at. It's interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm setting rules for myself. And, like when I go to eat by myself, which I do often when I'm in New Mexico, I put my phone away and I watch people and I try to, in the airport, I'm not on I try to watch people, I try to engage. I do people watching. I feel like this is like so much more interesting to
So
me.
much more interesting. And those like little moments of like meeting someone or just observing something interesting, getting inspiration from someone's outfit or someone's way
Yes.
of being, it's becoming a lost art. Although I think we're about to move into this whole like revolution of that changing. Like I
Yeah,
think that we're all feeling this energy coming in that's new, and I hope that that does return us to our bodies and to the world and helps like Instagram is also becoming so much less interesting, which is
it is.
good in a way. You open it and you're just seeing like ad after ad after ad, and you're not seeing
Yeah.
like I think we all got on that app to share beautiful ideas and images, and I still love that part of it and think that if you're seeking that, you find that on there, and it's just a lot.
I know. Yeah, the discipline is real.
Well, I wanted to also kind of segue into your relationship with beauty because I think that this is really important. And I think that maybe this is part of this remembering that we're collectively having and moving away from the screen and sort of like this more frivolous idea around beauty and
Mm.
what that is and what that means. I feel like you are such someone who really embodies that and champions that and speaks to that all of the time and have this beautiful relationship with Venus and Venusian of living and your line and all of that. And I think that this is so important right now for people to really cultivate their lives and what is beautiful to them and immersing themselves in that as protection, as guidance, as like this grounding energy of divinity on earth. And I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on beauty and
Oh,
your relationship with beauty.
thank you. Well, it is. It's definitely a driving force. And I feel like I just, adhered to that as a child too. It just
Mm.
sparked in me. And beauty in all its ways, right? Like in beauty we find in nature, the beauty we find in kindness, the beauty we find in poetry, the beauty we find in, just aesthetic quality around us. And yeah, I think it's like, why not, right? Why not live that way? And that's why I get so angry and disgruntled when I see horrible architecture or our cities destroyed, and the beautiful old buildings taken down and, trees and parks erased to make a parking lot. I mean, but I've been doing this, way before it was activism. This is like just the way my brain has been. And I think it's like, because it's medicine, it's medicine. Beauty is medicinal and it sparks your creativity. And if you're not creating, you're decaying. It's like
Mhm.
one or the other. We are creative beings. We have to constantly be creating in our lives. Otherwise, we're, becoming decrepit and decaying. And beauty is the spark for that, and yes, Venus has been, I mean, my Venus is in Aries. So that explains a lot. That matters of love and creativity and money. I'm very fiery, you
Yeah.
know in other areas of my chart and my life, I'm very stable. I actually don't even know all the other planets. I just know that I am very Venus and Aries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it can be a challenge because I was just visiting my daughters in LA and I was like, oh my gosh, the bougainvilleas
Mm.
blossom, the orange blossoms, the greenery. And then I get back to like New Mexico isn't bad because it's snowy and kind of quaint. But then I get to Texas where it's like very gray and brown right now. And I find myself sort of being like, reflecting that. And so I
Mhm.
have to work really hard in my life in Texas to do, go to my altar and put fresh flowers, go and make a beautiful meal, and imbue it with magic and beauty. Like I really I have to push myself a little bit to not fall into to what I'm seeing in my environment. And that's the work, right? That's devotion. Like it's like doing the laundry with love and folding every item and putting a little prayer into each item may the person who wears this be safe and productive and loved, like really making everything an act of devotion. That's the real practice, right? Like we can go to yoga all day, we can go to meditation all day, but if we don't use it when we're doing laundry or looking at the brown landscape, then when do we use it?
Mm, that's so powerful. I love that really, really so much. Like I think that everything that you're saying is so spot on and just how our environment can affect us so deeply and so may as well, make that as beautiful and harmonious and really thinking of beauty as all of the things that you said, this really expansive view of what beauty is, and not only cultivating that in places where it's easy, like California is insane in winter. It's spring right now, like everything's blooming. I had no idea. I'm new to a California winter and it's so green and so lush and so beautiful in this season. And yet that is like the true work and devotion of bringing that into the mundane, like bringing that into every moment and living beautifully is from that place of devotion and prayer and like seeking beauty, especially when we don't see that. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a really potent message for these times because yeah, no matter which way you're looking at the world, I think there's a lot of energy, a lot of chaos, a lot of movement, a lot of upheaval. And there's an intensity to that. So how can we root and ground and stabilize
Slow
and
down, right? We have
slow
to
down?
slow down to notice beauty too. That's the other thing. Like if your nervous system is on alert or fight or flight, you don't see the beauty around you, and that's like so that makes you work, without the intention of working on your nervous system, you're working on your nervous system too, just to get calm enough to find the beauty. And somebody once paid my products, I think it was a store that buys my products for their customers, and they said, there's other brands that are like more activating and more like have components in it that do this, and they said, but yours, because of the scent and the texture and it really makes women take that moment and slow down and feel, and that was like the best compliment, because that's what I wanted with my beauty line, was to just, how do we feel beautiful? Because I know for me, like if I feel beautiful, it helps my immune system. You know what I mean? I want to go out in the world and do things. I feel confident. Like if I don't feel beautiful, I just want to crawl under the covers. It's like, and I know it might seem trivial and not profound or deep, because of course we have to always work on our mind and our intellect too. But there is something, I don't know, that seems very accurate to me, and I don't know if it's like being half Persian where beauty is valued, or, my mom is from that generation where her nails have always been done, her hair has always been done. It's like just having that sense of like, okay, I feel good today, and I want to go out in the world and shine my heart.
Mm. I'm so with you. I do think it's really, really important and so much deeper than that surface layer that we might be perceiving. Like really when we feel good, we can do good in the world. And it really is like a fortifying force for us to step into beauty in this way that you're speaking of, which is all the layers of it, like having a beautiful heart, a beautiful mind, and yes,
Mm,
physical, tending to our physical bodies in
yes,
ways that make us
just
feel.
health, of course.
I mean,
Ultimate
yeah,
beauty.
when you're healthy, you just feel good, beautiful, like it's connected. It is a reflection. I know you've written on this. Well, I'll link some of your Substacks where you
Thank you.
where you touch on this too, because it's all connected. And I think that, yeah, I just have felt the need to lean into that also for myself and just making like a clean environment, putting together my new home and just how do I want to feel in this space and what is beautiful to me right now? It
Mhm.
changes as we grow and evolve and what we need and what we're drawn to. But I think that it's really important. Even just having like a beautiful little mug that like feels special, not just getting like IKEA or Target.
Right, right.
it enhances our lives so much.
Much. I went with my daughter to one of these places, like a home goods store, Marshalls or so, and I was just feeling so, or Target, we went to Target too, and I literally get sick, like, but with the lights and everything is the same, and it has that gas off of chemicals. And I feel bad because I'm like, well, this is like most people, this is what we can afford, right? Is to go to these
Yeah,
stores. And
yeah,
then I'm like, no, wait, there's a vintage store that you can
yeah,
go. And then I was like, come on, let's go to, we went instead to the flea market, and we found exactly like you said, like a beautiful vase that was for
yeah,
a fraction of the price of what, but it was like
right.
handmade, one of a kind. It had a unique beauty to it. And it just made us both so much happier. So
Yeah.
we really have to work harder, I think, these days to find those elements.
Right. It's like it brings you also on that little adventure where you're not just going into the first store you see. You do have to work harder. You have to like have this experience, and yet there's so much there that can unfold in going to the flea market and speaking with the people who
Yeah,
are selling the goods and
right.
making connections and having this other experience that I think going back to that homogenization, like we're losing so much of that. And yet, I think people want that and are seeking that. And I have hope that there'll be a revolution toward that
Oh, I
again.
hope so. And I think I said that in a post once. It's why I love Santa Fe so much is because
Mm,
curved architecture, right? All the buildings are curved, not,
yeah.
just areas. And that's what we find in nature. We find that like circular, feminine, rounded. It's not all these like sharp, linear, like cutting, edges. There's something like,
Yeah,
you feel like you're in the womb space, and much more feminine feeling in that landscape.
it really is. It's so special there. And that architecture really is so beautiful. You just feel different. I bet that's part of it. I think that's really onto something. I haven't heard anyone talk about that, but I feel like, I mean, even like the flat walls, the way that the adobe and the plaster work, like there's still a curve to everything. There's just
Yeah.
this softness and harmony. Yeah, and going into your line a little bit, because I was thinking about this as well. Instead of calling it Shiva Rose Skincare, it's called Shiva Rose Beauty.
Right.
Um, yeah, I would love to kind of talk, I think I've heard this part of your story and evolution, but I would love to touch on it and share it with these listeners of your creation process and kind of there's different pieces I want to touch on, but I would love to hear about, kind of tuning into who you are and the gifts that you have to offer and your path of discovering those and then sharing them with the world and starting with your blog and the creation of your line.
Wow, well, I think it comes back to like remembering as a child in Iran, we had a little pond outside, and I just remember like putting my toes in the pond, and the fish would be eating my toes, and I would like take flower petals and herbs and crush them and like play with them. And I have these like vivid memories of growing up and being like immersed in that. And I think that translated to realizing once I had my blog about how toxic things are when we put on our skin, and just wanting to bring that, that beauty. Because when I started my line, there were you had to go to like the granola hippie stores to get non-toxic things, and even then it was like they didn't have much. But I so there was a real niche for like beautiful, elegant, elevated skincare that was non-toxic.
Yeah.
And I think Tata Harper was the only one I knew of who had a line like that. And then May Lindstrom was another one. And then so I think it was like a real moment where I realized from my blog and from being, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I really want to share with people. And I was making my own face oil for like 20 years at a time when that was blasphemous, using oils.
Right.
Nobody used oils, and it was like considered so taboo. And I was like, you know what? I want to share this face oil that I make. And it actually, I think the story came during a Kundalini meditation with Guru Jagat, where I had the vision of the colors and the white and and just everything in the packaging. And so that was the first product. And then I saw that there was a real like need and hunger for it. And so it just sort of catapulted from there. And it's been, gosh, it's crazy. It's been so many years. And it's definitely not easy. And at times I'm like, I think maybe I'll get an investor right now. But then I'm such an Aquarius, I don't have anything. You've seen my works, but like nothing is organized. Like I don't have an Excel sheet. I haven't, so then I'm like, well, what would I show the investor? I can't show them like what's going on in my head. So
Right.
then I just go, well, I'll just keep doing it myself, wearing all the hats. But it's definitely, it's like it revolves. I'm constantly like, maybe I'll take it to this level. Maybe I'll downsize. Maybe I'll do this. So
Yeah.
I think I just go with my intuitive nature. And I think what I've decided now is Shiva Rose, I'm going to condense it and make the glow balm, which is such an incredible balm, the rose oil, these things that are really incredible and easy for me to manufacture. I'll continue with those. And then I will slowly evolve into a really small niche line that is inspired by the house in New Mexico called House of Magdalene. So that's what I'm excited about, eventually venturing into that. I'm going to be entering my second Saturn return. I know you just ended your first Saturn return, but Saturn returns are so epic for us, because you really get to like think about the next chapter of your life. So that's sort of what I'm envisioning for that.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's so much there. I love that the idea came through Kundalini, which I think a lot of people that like we know and are in adjacent spaces to us, that's how so many people receive the downloads for
Yeah.
their businesses, myself included. Like everything that I am doing now really started to come in when I was in New York and I was working in fashion, knew that wasn't right. And I just started doing Kundalini every single morning and started getting all of these downloads of the first step. Like it's different than what it was, but
Yeah.
it got me on my path more than anything. So
Amazing.
I'm so grateful for that. And I love that was also part of your experience and journey. And yeah, I mean, I love everything that you shared about the creation of the line. You were really at the forefront of this before clean beauty or non-toxic beauty was even part of the conversation, and I've been creating in this way for so long. And I love also the way that you hold that in like trusting your own creation process, because I think that that's really important. And I think that a part of this that I really want to go into, because I think that there's so many people like telling you that there's one way to create a business, one way to do something. And there's so many different ways, and we
So
each
many different ways. And I
have our
always
own
say,
system.
like, this is where my Venus and Aries can get
Yeah.
me in trouble.
You're
It gets
like,
me in trouble because it's very like jumping in and thinking about
yeah,
it later. However, I've heard that people that are successful do move forward with their instincts, or they don't, that if you sit back too long, you'll get fearful and you won't do it. And yes, 'cause sometimes it can be a huge risk. And of course, you have to think about that, especially if it's all your savings, that you're putting into something. But they say more often than not, I think it's that like jumping in and doing it is sometimes more powerful.
I think so. And it's like there's always going to be a different iteration of it. It's okay to jump in, start, and then go back and refine.
Right.
You
Exactly.
you can change, but you have to make it exist and then make it even more beautiful.
Tell people that. I mean, yes, I started before it was, but my blog, I think when I started, there was like two people reading it. Like it was literally like nobody.
Yeah,
So
you just start somewhere and you just like that inner knowing and just keep going. And it's not easy. I also have seen you speak to this, and I wanted to talk to you about this of sort of like this new wave that's coming through of people being like, oh, you can just create in your feminine and not really have to do
you
anything.
know,
And I think that's really interesting. Knowing some of the people who promote that, at some point they've had to like endure and push and have a masculine frame or some sort of outside like structure that allows them to be in their feminine. because I
Mm.
really think it takes both.
Definitely.
And
Both. It's funny. This is off topic, but I was reading this woman's Substack, and she was talking about how human design ruined her life. I think is very brave of her, but she was saying that she was so into human design, like so into it, that being a projector, she was a projector. And so she wouldn't pick up the phone to like make a call because projectors are not supposed to do that. They're supposed to wait things to come to them. Or like she explained how she was at a coffee shop and she wanted a coffee and the attendant's back was to them, and she was waiting for them to turn around because a projector isn't supposed to, all that. And she was like, I thought it was so bold of her to like admit, she's like, all the things that I've wasted, waiting for that. And I think that's like anything. We can look at these trends, be in your feminine, your soft era, yeah, I don't know how you can do that and not like work on your business every day. Like, it's just, I think it's a balance. It's the balance, or it's the way you do it, right?
yeah,
Like being soft, you can be soft, but you can still you must be disciplined. You must be trying to achieve a goal. You must try to, it's just, I think it's nature.
yeah.
Yogi Bhajan, who is very controversial, of course, but one of my favorite quotes by him, he said that happiness only comes from discipline, which I thought is like, because he wasn't saying money or fame or, it's like discipline brings you happiness. And it's true. Like that's when we feel best about ourselves and when our lives actually move forward. And I'm one to talk. I need to get more discipline for sure.
I
Like,
just like I think of balance as that ebb and flow. Like sometimes we're leaning more into the softness, femininity, creativity, and sometimes we are leaning further into the discipline. And it's not about one or the other. It really is like moving between them and
yes, yin and
so,
yang. Like you have to have both for sure.
yeah, of course, which I guess seems very basic in a way, but I feel like there's a lot of rhetoric right now in the spaces of creating businesses that are like, it should be easy, it should be this, it should be that. And as someone, like, I know that you've been doing what you do for a really long time, and that's taken a lot of discipline and devotion
Oh my goodness.
to keep showing up because
And
there's seasons where
my
it's
studio,
not fun.
my goal is to have a workspace finally, but like, you're one of the ones who's been in there. I mean, sometimes it's like freezing in there and dark, and like, I really have to show some discipline to go in there and like light the heater and
Yeah,
change it and
it's rustic.
rustic for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah.
I think that devotion is so beautiful. Like you have this vision, you have created this business, like you're continuously showing up in service to the people who, love your products. Like working with you, I know how many beautiful messages you receive and how many people like come back again and again to buy the things that they love. And so you going into the studio and showing up for them when it's not easy, like running a business, especially I think as a woman and as like a solopreneur is really challenging. Not having those investors, not having that outside support, like that energy has to come from inside of you.
Yes, yes, totally.
I do. I see you. I know how much it takes to do it
Thank
all.
you.
And I think it's really inspiring though. And in this vein, I'd be curious if you have any thoughts or words for people who are kind of just starting out in looking for their passion, looking for the things that they like. I think that a lot of people want to create, and I don't think everyone is necessarily meant to be an entrepreneur or build something, but I think we're all meant to connect with our creativity in whatever way that is. Like, what are some practices or tools that have been helpful to develop?
As AI becomes more apparent, right? And that's a lot of us worry about that. I think the people that are the most human or authentic to themselves are going to shine. So I think that's like tap into that even more, whatever it is that makes you you. And also finding the thing, like there are things that don't exist that you would want to use. Like that's also been I'm constantly thinking like, why isn't there this? Oh my gosh, I should create that because it doesn't exist. But sometimes those little thoughts actually can lead to something. And maybe reach out. We do need community. We do need friends. So maybe reach out to someone, maybe to partner with or to help guide you. Like, in our culture, one of the things we do miss in it is a mentor disciple situation,
Mm,
which I know in, Japan and China and Taiwan places, it's such a beautiful tradition because we need mentors. We need someone to hold us by the hand and show us how things are done. So I would say seek those people out too. They do exist, and that's a good way to bypass, a lot of the rhetoric and a lot of the, I don't know, schools aren't really doing that for us anymore, right? Unless you're like going to be an esthetician or something like that. I get it. But if it's something like, I would say reach out to the person who's doing kind of something in that realm and ask for their guidance, maybe, you know.
yeah, I love that. I think that that's really important. And even like when I was like in my earlier teens a decade ago, that was advice that a lot of people were still promoting. I feel like I haven't heard that for a little while.
Mm.
Of like, okay, you see someone who's doing something similar to what you want to do, or you're inspired by them. And I think that there's sort of become like these walls of like jealousy and I've run
Right. Yeah.
and it really is like learning from a living teacher is such an amazing way to learn a craft or a skill or just to hear their experience of how they started. And I started taking people out to coffee in New York that I
Oh,
admired, and I was like, can I buy you a coffee in exchange for just hearing how you got into the business you're in, hearing how you came up
yeah.
with your idea? And yeah, like offering them something, taking them to lunch, or offering your help. Like, can I assist you
Right. Well,
for something?
yeah, like an
You know,
exchange where you can assist. And that's where the mentor disciple
I think
thing
that's
is for sure.
really, really powerful. And then you're building those human connections. You're adding people to your sphere, your community, your tribe.
And gosh knows you've helped me so much, with like things in the past. Like you're the one I call and I'm like, Anna, I need help with
So,
this.
so glad to support you in those ways. And it really is so fun and nourishing. I really like that advice. I feel like that's
Thank
really, really helpful. And yeah, I'm thinking about I had a thread that that just keeps
you.
it and now it's leaving. But yeah, I'm curious how right now in this moment you are like caring for yourself and stepping into those beauty practices and staying centered, staying grounded,
Hmm.
fortifying your own being when the world is really loud and
Oh,
really
goodness. Well,
pulling
I
us
think
in so many
getting
directions.
off the phone and going into nature for sure, for sure. Like I forget sometimes like what a balm that is for my soul,
Mhm. Yeah.
and trying to get out into the open space because then you realize like all the chatter and the things are so minuscule, right? It doesn't really mean anything in the big scheme of things. Or when you look up at a huge expanse of sky with the stars, you're like, wow, like the stars aren't worrying about this and this and this, like there's just something so beautiful about that. And yeah, I'm trying to do more massage, self massage, because I've
Mhm.
noticed like parts of my body are getting very stiff and hard. And so for me, I'm trying to bring back Abhyanga, which is like an Ayurvedic self massage with warm oils. And my favorite thing is either in Texas or New Mexico is to sit by the fireplace and like take time and really do, oil massage on my breasts, on my womb, on my feet, on my hands. My gosh, I did mushrooms like a couple months ago, like maybe like 4 months ago for a friend's birthday. I didn't realize that it was not a microdose. But one of the things that hit me on this, during this mushroom spell was my hand. I just was like, thank you to these
Oh, yeah.
hands. Like these hands, like create. products, and helped nourish my children and raise my kids. And I just had this like big like epiphany with, so I think it's like those moments of prayer, and nourishment, and then intertwining the beauty with the oils and the mantras and, the flowers and all of those things, making tonics, like with nettle or chamomile or calendula, and all the imbuing ourselves with these really nourishing, mineralizing drinks that, enhance your hair and your bones. And so, I mean, there's plenty to do.
Yeah, I think so. And what I'm hearing is like this theme of going back to simplicity in a lot of ways, like the root, the body, taking care of ourselves from a nutritional standpoint, like in enhancing our world with beauty. Like it's so simple. And
Right. It doesn't
not,
cost.
it's not
Yeah.
easy because we don't make time for it. We're moving at such a breakneck speed that it feels burdensome. But when we really step back and, right, like taking a walk in nature, doing a self massage, like making sure that we're getting proper nutrition of just making ourselves a beautiful, nourishing meal and a beautiful infusion. Like these things are simple and relatively
Yeah.
accessible.
Definitely. And my book, Whole Beauty, there's like
Yeah.
chapters on making your own face mask. Honey and yogurt makes the
Yeah.
most incredible face mask ever. Like that you have in your pantry. So it doesn't have to be about, the money and the expenses as much.
Yeah, it's really true. I'll link Shiva's book as well because
Thank
it's so
you.
beautiful and has exactly so many recipes, so many
Mhm.
simple rituals and tools that we can utilize. And I think it's really important when the world gets loud for us to get really quiet, actually,
Mm.
really returning to that inner pillar of who we are and our own orientation, especially when everyone from every angle is like pushing their thoughts and their agenda, and to be open to that, to converse with that. But
Yeah.
exactly as you said at the beginning, like not interlocking, not allowing our own knowing to be penetrated or rocked in a way, like
It's a
knowing.
right. It brings us back to discipline.
Yes, and I think that we really need that in
Mm.
these times. And I just want to touch on like one other idea that we started to get into, but we kind of pivoted of be like in online and in the public world and having people interacting with you in these ways. Like, how do you create those boundaries for yourself? How do you say the things that feel true to you and also like navigate that because it's hard. I
Yeah.
also feel like so many people are really scared of sharing what they think and how they feel. It's fair to feel fear around that. And yet, I think that silence makes a lot of people assume that everyone is thinking
Yeah.
these,
I know
like
the
really,
assumptions are crazy.
it's really simplifying. And I
I
hear
think we
so
have to
many
see
people.
where people are coming from. Are they coming from like just to target you and just for no reason? Like, is it just coming out of their own hostility and then just block?
That's a great boundary.
Unless it's someone who wants to have a conversation. I am
Yeah.
happy to have a conversation about it. And that's what I miss. Like, you can think, I always tell my children this, like, you can think this thing and this thing. Like, if you're a complex, smart human being, you're not put in a box. Like personally, I'm not left or right. You know what I mean? I'm both. Like they're just like, so I
Right.
feel that way about so many things in my life. Like this, I agree with, this, I don't. Like it's not always so clean cut. And I think we've forgotten the conversation. Like what a beautiful thing to have like a debate and still like honor each other without shame, without like anger, and just have a healthy debate on something. That's incredible. Like what happened to that?
I hope it's coming back. Yeah, I've been having a lot of conversations with a new friend here who's like really into AI, and I'm fairly like skeptical-ish of it.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to have these conversations from these really different points of view and learning so much from him about this thing that I don't agree with, but I respect his point of view so much. And we really, yeah, I think we all know that this is an unfortunate part of the times we're living in where there's like two options when in reality there should be hundreds of things. Like we should just be moving through life with this ability to change our minds and learn something new
Yeah, change your mind. Like
and like
that's an option.
moving. This idea over here resonates and this one over here doesn't, and maybe that will flip at some point.
That goes back to your
Okay.
homogenization. It's like the homogenization of our brains. Like you're either this or this.
It's so black and white, and I'm hoping that we'll just like something will shift in the collective, like with these planets all moving into new signs and just shaking things up in a way that's going to really allow us to see things in a new light or an old light, other way of being.
Well, I heard this brilliant thing once because I love the sun as you do. I mean, I definitely wear a hat or SPF if I'm on the beach or something like that. But I do love morning sun and the energy. And I heard this thing. It was so interesting. It said at one time, we worship the sun. And then because of the sun, we evolved and then we created computers and then we created AI and then AI enslaved humanity. And then the solar flares came and destroyed AI and the computers. And then mankind once again remembered and worshiped the sun.
Yeah, I'm not entirely opposed to
It was so wild to see that whole, if the theory is true that AI will take over and then the solar flares may come and destroy the AI that isn't, and then we will once again, in our cave drawings, be drawing the sun.
Oh my gosh, that's so wild. I know it's like, are the cave drawings even from the future of like us? It's
I
like, wait, are we in this
know.
like weird time
Oh
of
my
like
gosh. I
me?
heard this one guy say it was actually humans in the future are time traveling now, and that's the aliens or something like that. I was like, whoa, like that's actually
Yeah.
us in the future time traveling.
It's so hard to tell like how all of this whole reality works. I think we're both just like students of life and nature, and I think that what you're honing in on here too is something that is really important to remember in this time of like nature is really powerful and fast, and the sun and the cosmos and the solar flares, like we're building all of these things and we are like these little creators. I also don't like to think of humans as like a plague of the earth. I think we're a
Oh,
part of the earth,
right.
and this is
Hopefully.
like part, yeah, hopefully. And like there's things that we're doing that are terrible for the
Yeah,
earth. But
definitely. Yeah.
hopefully, like we can remember our connectedness to her and her immense power, like thinking of earthquakes and hurricanes and fires and like these forces that just can come and change everything so fast. It's
So,
really humbling to remember how small we are and
yeah.
how delicate it all is. And I think if we're living and moving from that place, it allows for more reverence and humility of like, okay, we're not necessarily gods of everything.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
I,
we're magnificent creators and we need to learn how to wield that power for good, but we're also tiny little blimps. Anyway, I would love, yeah, if you have any final words or anything that you would like to share.
Oh, I just want to say thank you for having me and thank you for all you're doing and the beauty you are. And I'm so honored and grateful to be here and to know you. And yeah, I hope we all walk the beauty way, daily if we can.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining. And we're going to do a special code for Shiva's Glow Bomb for all of the listeners, and that's going to be we'll add that in the show notes. So look for that. I'll also share what that is when the episode comes out. So yeah, we would love for you to, if you haven't yet experienced her incredible products, and we will link her Substack, her site, all of her offerings, and you can find her on Instagram at Local Rose and Shiva Rose Beauty.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so grateful for having you here. So,
Thank you, love.
so
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Amazing.
Aloha.